My name is Wanjiku Kironyo. I'm a counseling psychologist. I'd like to talk about boarding school institutions. Boarding schools has been very popular in our country. Some of the background information that I can share with you about boarding school, they were established during the colonial time. And because of the way the colonizers perceived our communities as primitive communities, they wanted to isolate children from their parents. And so they took away those children, and they had established nice boarding schools where they could harvest the cream of each community and take them to those schools so that they will be the ones to rule the country or to lead the country, which is a good idea, that they had that idea that they could prepare some people. But on the other hand, what that did to the families that were taken to the boarding schools is that there was a total separation between them and their brothers and sisters, even the communities that they came from. Some of them even looked down upon those communities, and they never even came home. I remember there's a story of one of the young men who used to come home with a tent that was given to him by the school institution, because it was a school that was run by white people, and they did not want him to come home for holiday. He was a very bright boy. And so they would, if he insisted to go home, they would give him a small tent, and he used to pinch that tent at the back of their home so that he does not sleep in that hut that the family had, that is full of smoke, that looked primitive, that looked backward. And I remember the story of this man who grew up, did not see himself as an African. He saw himself as a European and never even identified with anything African, and he used to look down upon that family that he came from. Some of the stories that we used to hear of this man is that when the family, his parents once visited him in the city, and he sprayed them with the chemicals so that they don't contaminate his house. So we have agri stories about it, about the boarding school. On the other hand, we know that most of our first African readers who has read this country to where it is today were prepared or socialized from those institutions that were boardings, and they brought together people from different communities, and therefore we saw that the leadership of the country, like Kenya and other parts of Africa, is so integrated because you put together people from different tribes to come together. So there was an advantage to it. So it was not a bad situation. It had a good outcome in some areas, and sometimes it had an ugly outcome. So now the question is about today. Today, why is it that a lot of parents are taking their children to boarding schools? Number one, there are all kinds of reasons. The infrastructure of our cities, because most of these are people who have migrated to the city, or even our schools that are locally surrounding our community in the rural area, are so poorly run. And therefore, parents want to save their children by taking them to good schools that have been established away from home, which is okay, because it also gives the parents a lot of opportunity for them to work and put a lot of time, because of course in this country, like Kenya, most of the parents, and we know that we take care of our health, we take care of our education, we take care of everything. And so because there has been very little support to strengthen those institutions such as health institution, education institution, the parent has to try the best they can to work around the clock so that they can make the ends meet and pay the school fees for their children. Because we have always seen as the children as the hope of our future. It is our investment. It is our social security, is to educate your child. It has always been that way, although things are changing now. So now the question is, how does that isolation of a child from the parent affect them? We take the children at a very early age when they are in their formative stage. What kind of institution are boarding schools? Boarding schools have been known to give the children an opportunity to concentrate on their studies. It also gives them a chance to focus on interaction and implement their knowledge because they are not exhausted. Where we find that the children who are in the city, sometimes because of the movement, the traffic and everything, they'll spend several hours on the road. In fact, I must say that a lot of time is spent on the road than in the classroom. A child who leaves at 5:30 in the morning to get to school by 8 o'clock and leave school at 4 o'clock and get home by 8 o'clock. if you add up that time, they are spending more time on the road. And so it becomes necessary for the parents to ask themselves questions. When does this child get a chance to do the homework? So the best thing is to take them to a place where they are supervised to do their homework, they are given education, and they are also, somebody is taking the responsibility. That has been good, but its effect it has had is what we are seeing today in our country. We are seeing all kinds of behavior problems because the children not only learn from the teachers, but they learn from each other. What kind of background do those other children have? You may have certain values in your form, and the children, because of the peer pressure, are pressurized to take up other behavior that are non-functional behavior. Drug use is used, and even alcohol drinking is introduced to those schools, and many, many other behavior that I'm not going to go into. But what we're seeing today is the rebellion. The children are feeling, I no longer want to be away from my family. And so what are we seeing? We are seeing a lot of, like never before, we have never had the school burning, killing even other students, without even thinking about the consequences, losing everything, losing a building. And there's something that these children are telling us. We must listen to those behavior. We must watch them very carefully. We must not dismiss them. We must ask the question, why this time? Why is it happening everywhere? Even the top schools that we used to have in this country that were known to have good discipline are still conducting those behaviors. Is the law reinforcement good enough? I believe we need to look behind the scene to see what is exactly happening. We are losing our children at a very early age. They are becoming disintegrated from us. They become institutionalized. And we know that when they grow in those institutions, they are no longer part and parcel of our lives. So let's give it as a second thought. Thank you.